going to be looking at why it is that with 51,000 certificated teaching staff, we still have and are hearing about class sizes that are unacceptably large. That, to me, suggests a management issue. And so I don't think that we solve that by having an arbitrary formula. We solve that by going...
Or multiple times mentioned union leaders. It sounds like you're trying to villainize the union leaders here. Are you saying that they're to blame and the membership is not? Or are you saying that they carry the brunt of this work stoppage? What are you saying with that?
Good afternoon. I'm here to provide an update on teacher bargaining and speak directly to students, families, and teachers. It has now been 2 weeks since the strike began and since students have been out of the classroom. And we've still not received a realistic and fair proposal from the Alberta Teachers Association that would work for students, teachers, and taxpayers. But we do not believe this strike can continue indefinitely. It's hurting students and families, and for that matter, teachers. Given this, yesterday, the Provincial Bargaining and Compensation Office wrote to the Alberta Teachers Association and formally requested an agreement to enter an enhanced mediation process. This process would have allowed students and teachers to return to the classroom starting Monday.
Right here, the Premier is explaining the very reasonable, common-sense offer she made. She tried to get students back in classrooms on Monday while letting a mediator solve the problem. She put kids and families first, but as you're about to hear, the teachers' union just wouldn't have it.
Well, ATA, the Teacher Employers Bargaining Association, and a third-party mediator would work together to propose a recommended agreement. PBCO made this offer to the ATA because this strike is impacting students and families. And I'm very disappointed that the Alberta Teachers Association refused this offer.
Just look at her face. When she says she is very disappointed, you can tell she means it. The ATA, the teachers' union, stubbornly refused her offer, choosing to keep kids out of school instead of taking a clear path to end this.
Government is trying to put kids, families, and teachers first and bring an end to this strike. The offer of enhanced mediation provided a clear path to ending it. Government's investment needs to be flexible and work for all 61 school divisions. And we want the same things as the ATA. More classrooms, more teachers, more pay for teachers, and more educational assistance. And that's why we are committed to improving the entire system. With the 12 to 17% raise that was recently rejected by ATA, teachers' salaries would have started at $70,916 and go up to $119,033. This would have made them the best paid teachers in Western Canada after provincial taxes. We offered to hire an additional 3,000 new teachers over the term of the contract, which would help alleviate classroom sizes on top of the $8.6 billion investment we made this year to build 130 schools. We also offered to hire 1,500 more educational assistants to support teachers and students each and every day in the classroom. All of this was rejected, as was the offer made yesterday that would have had everyone back in the classroom first thing Monday morning. The ATA's latest offer would have cost taxpayers an additional $2 billion on top of the $2.6 billion that we have already committed, a total of $4.6 billion. Our province is facing a $6.5 billion budget deficit this year, and we must continue to be responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. TEBA is ready and willing to continue negotiating, but the ATA needs to come back to the table with a deal that is grounded in reality. After about 3 weeks, a strike of this nature would reach the threshold of causing irreparable harm to our students' education. The ATA needs to do this for its members and for all students. If it refuses to do so, we will consider other options to bring this strike to an end. Did you have anything to say? Yeah. And I'll now turn it over to the Education Minister.
Well, thank you, Premier, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. Like the Premier, I as well am deeply disappointed that union leaders have declined our proposal. We asked union leaders to let kids go back to school and bring in a third-party mediator to help us resolve this impasse. By rejecting our offer, students will continue to face the consequences of this strike with no clear path to getting them back. As Minister of Education and Childcare, my highest priority is always Alberta's children and their education. Every decision I make is guided by the principle of putting kids first. The ongoing absence from school is impacting the education of more than 700,000 students across our province. Our offer provided a fair and collaborative process, one that respects teachers and focuses on resolving key issues through enhanced mediation. Instead, the uncertainty continues, placing even more stress on students and families. Students have missed out on valuable learning, sports activities, personal development, social interaction, and more. These kids have already been through enough with COVID, and keeping them out of the school again hurts them even more. I want to take a moment as well to speak directly to our teachers. We hear you. I hear you. And we know more must be done. And we agree with you and want to work with you. But our children should not be put in the middle of this. We are ready to hire more teachers to help bring down class sizes. We are ready to hire more EAs to ensure students receive more specialized supports. We are ready to combat violence and aggression in the classroom because no teacher should be punched, kicked, or assaulted. We are ready to build more schools to deal with the sudden and dramatic increase of students. And again, I want to say a thank you to all of our teachers. I know that you put your heart and soul into your jobs, and Alberta's government values and respects the work that you do. Teachers are the heart of our education system. Your voices matter, and your insights are essential as we work together to strengthen Alberta schools. Now, despite union leadership's rejection of our plan to get kids back into the classroom, our commitment remains unwavering, and we want Alberta's children to be in school, learning, and growing every day. Their education and well-being are at the heart of everything we do, and next steps will be focused on getting kids back into the classroom as soon as possible. In closing, I call on union leaders to make the right decision and get our kids back into the classroom where they belong. I'm confident that with the assistance of a third-party mediator, we can reach an amicable resolution to the current impasse and avoid further harm to our kids. Thank you, and I'm now happy to pass things over to Sam Blackett to moderate today's Q&A.
Thank you. We'll now start our immediate Q&A portion. We are running tight on time today, so a reminder to keep it to one question, one follow-up, and please state your name and outlet before asking your question. We'll start off here in the room before making our way to the phones. Go ahead first with the mic.
Edward from City News. My question's for the Premier. Premier, regarding the letter the province sent the ATA asking them to return back to work, the ATA says they will not go back to work Monday and will continue striking. They also called TIBA's request to take off the table classroom ratios in the enhanced round of bargaining, undermining any resolution for a solution. What is your reaction to the ATA still saying they will continue to strike, and why has the province removed the discussion of classroom ratios in the enhanced round of bargaining?
Well, I think, unfortunately, the ATA is fixated on a single solution, and that's part of the problem that we have. There are lots of ways to deal with classroom complexity, and there are many jurisdictions that have gone to court to make sure that they do not give up that flexibility, because some of the solution might indeed be smaller class sizes. Some of it might be hiring more education assistants. Some of it might be what they have in Saskatchewan, which has proven very successful, is having dedicated specialized teams that pull kids out of the classroom to work with them one-on-one. So I would say that the AT, unfortunately, has fixated on a solution which hasn't worked in the past. I know that there was $2 billion that was spent under the NDP to try to reduce class sizes, and year after year after year, the class sizes went up. And so that's something that we have to be mindful of, is that there doesn't seem to be an agreement on even how to calculate it. If you look at the number of teachers that we have, 51,000 and 740,000 students, that would be a pupil-teacher ratio of about 14. If you just focus in on the 35,162 teachers that they say are full-time teachers and divide that by that number, that's 21 to 1. So it seems to me like if we're doing the math, then we're already there. So I think that's why it's problematic to try to have hard caps and arbitrary formulas written into contracts. Let's work together on what we know is the solution, which is how do we deal with complexity? And we have to be able to have the flexibility to do that. So that's what we're asking them to do. Come back to the table. Let's work together on how we address those issues of complexity. But the idea of giving up some of that flexibility is something that we have heard from the 61 school boards that are involved in this negotiation, that they're simply not prepared to do that.
And then on back to work legislation, the legislature, I believe, is reconvening on the 27th. If the strike continues, would that be the government's first piece of legislation to essentially have the teachers go back to work? And if not, how many days would pass before the province would move in that direction?
If we get to October 27th without kids returning to the classroom, that in the view of my education minister and others we've consulted with would constitute irreparable harm to children, especially those who are trying to do the preparation that they need to prepare for university and be able to write diploma exams. So I would say that if we do not get back to the table next week with the students returning to classroom, you should fully expect that there'll be legislation in the week of October.
Next to the mic.
Hey, I want to go back to the teachers. I mean, it's no secret to anyone in this province right now that class size is the number one sticking point for the ATA. So, I mean, there had to be some sort of, I guess, acknowledgement on your behalf or your government's behalf that this letter wasn't going to work without the class sizes. So you mentioned you're disappointed. Are you surprised that the ATA is saying no to that letter?
Well, I think that the ATA needs, the leadership needs to understand that there's, what's the phrase, more than one way to peel a potato. That there is a way for us to be able to address the issues of complexity without having a one-size-fits-all approach. And I've offered many different observations about how that can be done. We could have specialized small classrooms. We could have more EAs. We could have dedicated EAs to the highest needs. We could have specialized learning environments with specialized teachers pulling kids who need the extra assistance out. There are lots of ways to address complexity without going to the type of policy that simply hasn't worked before. When I go back and look at the last class size reports, after the NDP was spending $2 billion, and go look at the Auditor General's report. It was the Auditor General who said this isn't working. $2 billion to reduce class sizes, and I believe they went from something like 18.2 up to 20.4 over that period. That is a very clear sign to me that these kinds of arbitrary ratios don't work, and there's probably a few reasons for that. Because if you look at the list of teachers, there's many that have been pulled out of the classroom, whether they're substitutes, they're assistant principals, they're vice principals, they're some kind of student leader, they're curriculum specialists and learning leaders, they're consultants, they're counselors, there's other learning support specialists. This is the problem that we have, is we have to make sure that the teachers are allocated to the classroom first. And so that is what my minister and I are going to be focusing on once we get to an agreement with the teachers, is we're going to be looking at why it is that with 51,000 certificated teaching staff, we still have and are hearing about class sizes that are unacceptably large. That, to me, suggests a management issue. And so I don't think that we solve that by having an arbitrary formula. We solve that by going in and finding out what the mix of staff is at an individual school and what the targeted approach is going to be for each of those schools.
I got one for you, Minister. The ATA has presented a couple different deals to its membership before, and the membership has soundly rejected those deals. So I'm just wondering, when you multiple times mention union leaders, it sounds like you're trying to villainize the union leaders here. Are you saying that they're to blame and the membership is not? Or are you saying that they carry the brunt of this work stoppage? What are you saying with that?
Well, I'm saying very clearly that we understand and recognize the concerns of everyday teachers, and we are listening very carefully to the needs of teachers and students and families. And we understand, as the Premier noted, that the key issue here has to do with complexity. And we've seen a 34% increase, as an example, in the number of refugee students in the past 4 years. We've seen double-digit increases in the number of students with English as an additional language. And whenever I talk to teachers, that's the primary concern that I hear about, has to do with complexity and how we manage that. Now, as the Premier said, there's many different approaches and ways in which we could address that, but we don't seem to hear those constructive proposals coming from the union leaders at the bargaining table. We do want to address classroom complexity, which manifests in aggression, which can manifest in violence. That's why I commissioned an action team on violence and aggression in June. We want to work at addressing those issues. And we don't have any concerns with our rank and file teachers and their desire to be able to provide the best possible support for our kids and to improve their learning. And we want to work together to achieve those goals. And we believe that by bringing in some enhanced mediation, we could bridge the divide, but apparently the union leaders don't want to entertain that.
Thanks, Tim. And
then on the teacher strike, so it seems pretty clear to me that you guys are gearing up to table back to work legislation when, you said yesterday we're about to meet like the definition of irreparable harm there. You need that to table this legislation. What is your level of confidence that back to work legislation would stand in the courts this time around after the previous order in 2002 was turned down by a judge?
Well, we'll be hoping that doesn't happen. I mean, this is part of the reason why we wrote the letter to the ATA, is we're committed to getting kids back in the classroom. But I would also say that we are also committed to making sure that kids are not harmed. And I think a press release went out today saying that we have had to make the difficult decision to make diploma exams optional so that no one is impacted in their final grades. There's a lot of kids who may choose to take those exams if they want to go on to university, and so we'll make that option available. But those are the kind of things that I'm talking about with irreparable harm. We don't want to be impacting the ability of kids to start planning for where they're going to go to university, and it starts impacting them as soon as grade 11 because you can get early admission into university. So we think that 3 weeks is about the limit of what students can handle before we start seeing irreparable harm, and that's why we're still hoping that we get teachers back in the classroom and that we can negotiate a settlement. That is by far preferable. But at the moment we've had 2 negotiated settlements, both of them put to teachers, and they've been rejected. So we live in hope, but we're planning for the other option.